The great management expert Peter Drucker once said that innovation is not about being brilliant, it's about being conscientious. So, in today's world of business, where one innovative idea can make more difference than ever before, how do you keep creative thinking at the forefront of everyone's attention? Bob Johnson has some creative ideas on this subject. Bob Johnson has trained thousands of managers on 5 continents. When he shares management techniques and strategies, you know he's not speaking from theory, but from practice. He's been there. Let's join Bob Johnson as he discusses how to tap the creativity of your management team.
How do you tap the creativity of your management team? How do you help your managers use more of their creative potential? That's what we're going to talk about and discuss in this next few moments that we spend together. When you talk about this business of creative thinking, would you agree with this simple concept that if you and I don't find a better way to do it, our competition will? So true, so true. When you talk about this business of creative thinking, we have to think in terms of reinventing ourselves and helping the people on our team to reinvent themselves. In essence, the purpose that we have in the next few minutes is to look at ways in which we can build and maintain a more creative environment which promotes a commitment by all to a concept of continuous improvement, because we've got to find a better way. While you and I are sitting here working to develop more of our creative ability in this training environment that we're in together, our competitors are sitting in their offices or out there in their regions thinking about how they can steal our best customer. So we've got to constantly be looking and thinking creatively. With the pace of change that we have in front of us, we've got to change on the run today. Is that true? No longer do we have the luxury of time to sit down and put together the perfect plan. That creates paralysis by analysis, and it just simply takes too long. We have to plan and think creatively and do it while we are on the move. The key thing that particularly in today's climate we have to console ourselves with, we have to come to grips with, is that we must build a creative environment in our companies, in our departments, rather than the old caretaker mode of management. If all we do is sit and try to take care of what we have, with the rate of change being what it is, we'll be left behind. Now, the most critical point that I need to put in place here, that we need to discuss and accept, when you talk about this business of creative thinking, you talk about this business of the importance of changing and changing quickly, the key point is this: in order for things to change in my department, in order for things to change in my division or in my entire organization, in order for things to change, I first must change. I've got to be willing to reinvent myself before I can ask those who work on my team to change and run with me toward achieving new goals and objectives. So how do you go about developing and maintaining a more creative environment? It begins with a simple process. And rather than talk about the process, let's just do it. I'm going to ask you a question. It's a simple question, and I'm going to ask you in answering this question to simply turn on the green light in your mind. And what I mean by that is that if you're in your automobile and you're driving down the road and you come to a traffic signal and the light's red, what do? You stop. If the light is green, you keep going. The point of this exercise in answering the question is to keep the green light on in your thinking. And when I give you the question, your job will be to write down as many answers as you can possibly think of in a period of 2 minutes. It's what we call green light thinking. Here's the question. Think and write as many answers as possible. In what ways can we get our people to want to do that which must be done. You have 2 minutes. Please write. All right, thank you. Pens down now, if you would, please. It's time now to turn the green light off. We're going to turn the red light on. And I'm going to ask you to, with that red light on and with a bit of judicial thinking, go back and look at the ideas you've just jotted down. And if you would, please, in your opinion, what are the best 2 ideas that you've put on your list? And simply put a tick mark beside what you believe to be the best 2 ideas you have. Would you do that, please? All right, thank you. Thank you. Now, what I'll ask you to do, it's now time to select a table leader. And this is a lot of fun. We do it by democratic approach. Would everybody take your finger and hold it up in the air just like this? When I'm going to count to 3. I'll say 1, 2, 3, point. And when I do that, point to the person at your table who's going to be your table leader. 1, 2, 3, point. We got a table leader here. We have a table leader here. We have one here and I believe here. Is that correct? Yes, sir. All right, table leaders, what I'll ask you to do, please, you will have 60 seconds only. You are not to discuss the ideas, simply hear the ideas that have tick marks beside them. And you will consolidate the list. Now then, before you begin, the least number of ideas that you could possibly come up with at the table is 2. That's assuming that everybody had ticked the same identical 2 ideas. You could not have less than 2. You could not possibly have more than 8 because there are 4 to the team. So 2 times 4 makes 8 if you all had different ideas. Table leaders, you eliminate duplication as we go. You have 60 seconds, table leader. Consolidate the ideas. Thank you. What I'd like to do now is to hear, table leaders, what you've come up with, and I'll ask someone to start it off. And when you hear an idea, table leaders, if someone from another group reads an idea that's also on your list, just cross it off your list and we will eliminate duplication as we go. Someone start me off. Who has an idea?
Empowerment.
Empower them. This process, as you will see, this process we're working on right now in itself will take a giant step forward in empowering the people that work for us. Another one. Yes, sir.
Provide a productive environment.
Create a productive environment, a positive environment, a win-win environment. Thank you. Another. Yes.
Management support.
Management support. Let them know that you're there to support, to encourage people. Ladies and gentlemen, in asking the questions, what we have just done is collected the very best thinking of this group of people. And sitting in this room are some pretty strong personalities. Is that true? I mean, you don't get into management without having something to say. Is that right? But what we've just done in a brief few moments, in about 6 to 7 minutes, we have collected the very best thinking of this entire group of people, and that happened because of a simple process. It began, point A in the process. I ask you a question, in what ways can we get our people to want to do that which must be done? That's the A bit. Ask the question. In what ways? The question is not how can we, but in what ways can we? That's the question. The B part, I ask you then to jot down your best thinking and put a tick mark beside your 2 best ideas. And having done that, we took a look and did item C, in which I ask you to consolidate those ideas and come up with a list at the table level. So the 3 steps that you take at this point in the process: A, ask the question, in what ways can we solve the problem? And let people put down their ideas. B, tick their best 2 ideas. And C, consolidate the best thinking of the group. Now then, having done that, we're ready now to move to the next step in this process. We've got the ideas. Could be 6 or 8, could be 10 or 12 ideas that come from the group. Of those, which one's the best? Which is the best idea? Oh, no, mine. My ideas are better than yours, aren't they? Sure. Oh, he's real easy. He agrees, yeah, my ideas are the best, and you're saying, no, you want to argue about it. And often that's what happens, particularly in management meetings. Is that true? Or team meetings. Ideas are like little children. We love our own. True? True. Now, will you work harder to make your idea work or to make someone else's idea work? Oh, for sure. For sure. So if we want to begin to create an environment where people buy in on things, let's start using more of their ideas. And we've covered a simple process for doing that. Now, how do you select? How do you go about selecting the best of those ideas? Sometimes you may be able to use several of them. But generally speaking, one of the ideas is going to be the best one. Does that make sense? All you need to do to determine which is best is simply, having collected the ideas, then identify what are the absolute criteria that the idea must meet. As an example, you may have to set a criteria that says if we have to spend more than X amount of money, we cannot use the idea. If we cannot implement the idea with our current staff numbers, we're not going to do it. Or you may say, we will recruit and hire up to 3 additional staff to implement the idea and get it working. So all you need to do is to take the list of ideas you've come up with and then identify the absolute criteria that they must meet. Now, when you do that, some of those ideas are going to be eliminated. So let's say you started out with 8 ideas. You looked at your absolute criteria, and now you have a list of 3. You're ready to take the next step. The next step is, of those 3, which of those 3 is the best? And of course, it would be mine, right? No, see, you think it's yours. Which is the 3? So what do? We take the next step, which is, what are the desirable criteria? And all you need to do is simply jot down what those desirables would be. Those are the nice to haves. It would be really nice to have if we could have them. And see which of those 3 ideas that made it through your absolute criteria kind of rises to the surface. And ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that almost every time, with rare exception, cream will rise. The best idea that you've come up with in your creative thinking exercise will surface by simply applying it to the absolute and then the desirable criteria. In essence, there is a process to creative thinking. What are creative people like? What are creative people like? People who think creatively. People who think creatively, they look at ideas that are in existence, but they refocus their experience in new ways. They look at the world with a creative state of mind, not just a memory state of mind. You know, the most damaging words in business and industry today: we've always done it this way. The 6 most damaging words. And that is working from a memory state of mind. Creative people refocus their thinking. Now, let's have some fun. Let's get creative. Think with me for just a few moments. You see on the board 16 dots. Here's your challenge. On a bit of paper, your job is to connect all 16 dots using only 6 contiguous lines. That's a line each connected to the one preceding it, and without lifting your pen from the paper. Would you have a go at doing that, please? Ladies and gentlemen, as I look around, some have somewhat confined yourself to working within the box. Is that right? there was nothing in the instruction that said you had to stay in a box. Is that right? The only way you can accomplish this, you must get outside of the box. It's a simple little concept that's been around now for many years, and some of you have no doubt have seen it. But the challenge that we face, very simply, is how can I begin to think creatively? Your first line, very simply, has got to come outside the box. Your second line comes outside the box. Your third line. And that's as far as I'm going. I'll let you get creative. I've done it with 3 lines. There are 3 lines yet to draw that'll connect all 16 dots using 6 contiguous lines and without lifting the pen from the paper. It's an exercise that helps us to begin to realize something. It helps us to realize the point we put in place at the beginning of our discussion. If we don't find a better way to do it, our competition will. Turn on the green light, get creative in our thinking, and step outside the box. Don't put ourselves in that memory state of mind box. So let's stop and review for just a moment. In order to get this creative thinking process going, step number 1 is green light thinking. Step 2 is where you select the best of your ideas. Step 3 is you consolidate the best ideas from each member of your team. And step 4, you then choose the best idea. And item A under that, to help you come up with the best choice, is what are the absolute criteria the idea must meet. And step B, what are the desirables that would be nice to have? Now then, there is one remaining step in our 5-step formula. And that is, once we've selected the best idea, how do we sell it? How do we go about gaining acceptance from all those people who've got to implement the strategies, implement the plans, and make the idea a reality? Does that make sense? Sure does. Now guess where we go from here? If you want to sell the idea, why not let's get creative in our thinking and go right back to step number 1 in this process. In what ways can we sell it in and gain acceptance? Would everyone please turn on the green light and write down your best thinking? Would you now put a tick mark beside the best 2 ideas that you believe will enable us to best sell the idea in and gain acceptance of it? Would you then consolidate those ideas, run them through step 4, your absolute and desirable criteria, and guess what you come up with is a plan of attack for going and selling in your idea. This business of creative thinking is fun, it's exciting, it's dynamic. It keeps not only ourselves alive, it keeps our people more alive and more thinking outside the box in terms of in what ways can we achieve our goals and solve our problems. Creative thinking, there are a couple of simple little concepts that will help. In looking at the concept, let's demonstrate it to begin with. You'll notice you have a worksheet in front of you, and it simply has a number of circles on it. Here's the challenge. In 60 seconds, would you please think of as many different round objects as you possibly can and write only one round object per circle on your page and see how many of the circles you can fill up in 60 seconds. Go. All right, thank you, pens down. That's time. Now, would you please quickly count up how many circles did you fill in? Count them up real quick and write your number down on the paper. Let me hear your numbers. What have you got? Shout them out nice and loud. What'd you get? 7. 8. Another one. 6. 10. Oh, who can beat 10? Got a 10 over here. Anybody beat 10? Going once. Going twice. Looks like 10 got it. Now think with me for just a moment. Did I put you in a box for this exercise? Not in any way. I said think of as many different round objects as you can. And write only one round object per circle and see how many of the circles you can fill up in 60 seconds. Is that right? Did anyone happen to write down the word ball? B-A-double-L. Did you write that word down? Now, ladies and gentlemen, 10 was the highest number we had. Is that right?